Hello, Steve.
Hello, Steve Black. Are you and I the only ones on right now?
It kind of looks like it.
All right. Well, I hope someone else joins. I'll be on regardless.
Yeah. Well, I'm brand new to this, so I'll probably just listen in most
Well,
of
I wish I was brand new because I'm having the kind of problems that a newbie should have. But I think my problems are actually related to hardware, and I won't whine to you about that. Just to say that that's what I think the issues are. So anyway, I'll see if Rodney joins or if anybody joins. I'll ask some questions and see if
sure.
the group can help me. You can too, but I'll give it a chance, uh, first.
Yeah. What hardware are you using?
I am using Digitrax, and my original layout used Digitrax SE8C for signaling, and it worked great. And I wired up all my own cables and put connectors on them, and they work a treat. But they don't make that anymore. So now I'm using the newer SE74. They work perfectly when I plug the signals right into them. But if I run them through one of my homemade cables, and unfortunately I got a number of them all over the layout, they do not work. So shouldn't you could say I just goofed up the crimping and stuff, but I've re-crimped them and I've done them on the other layout. And like I said, I made it work. But there's got to be some answer. And I will also check on the Digitrax um, um, website.
Yeah, the groups.io.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I get probably the best information at.
Yeah. And I'm going to go there. I'll just wait till somebody else joins.
I see Ken's on.
Oh, good. Hi, Ken.
Yeah, Steve, I can't really help you. My
That's
layout
cool.
is all layout command control.
Everybody's going to that, and I
Yep.
would
Hello,
love to.
folks.
Hi, Ken. How are you doing, sir?
I can.
Oh, keeping busy. Lots of
I know
school,
you
that
are.
type of stuff.
Well, I'm going to throw a question at you. It's not about cats, so feel free to not know the answer, but you know a lot, and it's not even about JMRI though. It's and I am going to look. Um, sorry, in the Digitrax site because that's probably where I'm going to find, uh, you know, what I need. But my issue is I have an existing layout, and the existing layout has signals that work, and they are all um, well, they're the BLMAs, and they're all connected with the SE8Cs, and I had to make my own cables and run them, and I did, and they all work as they should. Now the SE74, they are not, they're working. I can't say the SE74 is at fault, but the homemade cables that I'm making don't completely work. They seem to cause four signals go on each cable, can go on one cable. And it seems like two of the signals through one of my cables always display the same aspect as the other. And so instead of four different individual, I only have two. Now, before you say I just crimped it wrong or did something, that is a possibility. But I've tried re-crimping, cutting the connectors, and they're just, crimp on 10 pin connectors. But somehow, I think I've done something wrong. And I don't know if you've heard anything about any of this or what.
Okay, so as you say, you made your own cables, but it's a standard 10-pin ribbon and
Yeah,
the
I got a
IDC
10 pin
connectors.
with the gray cable with the one red wire, and I got the IDC connectors and I lined them up so that the little symbol is over the red. And I did all of that, and that works with the SE8Cs, but the same setup doesn't work with the SE74. But I know that is not the programming of the SE74, because if I use a supplied Digitrax cable and crimp my own additional connector so I can get all 4 signals on the one cable, which they're designed for, they work as intended. But I would have to get a different cable or get official Digitrax. I don't know what to do. And of course, I've got an operating session coming up. I probably won't have them working for that operating session. But anyway, that's the situation. And I know, yeah, it sounds like wiring errors on my part, and I agree. And I don't know how many times I can cut off and recrimp a 10-pin IDC.
We end up with an awful short cable.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
the
the
thing I was
problem.
going to say
The cables they
is,
supply, Ken, the cables they supply are about 20 inches long. I need more like 20 feet.
oh yeah, that's what most of the ones I've installed, 5, 10, 15, 20 feet. Uh, Now I'll put this caveat out. I have not had to directly work with some of these newer boards, but a lot of the feedback that I'm hearing translates to they don't work as well for whichever sorts of reason, whether it's quality and they just, fail easy.
I do agree.
I don't know, but I hear a lot of that.
So I've had some troubles with the DS74, the switch controller, and it has specifically to do with the distance from the input to any push buttons you might have on the fascia to control that thing. You're limited to about 8 feet, whereas on mine, I've got them 14, even 24 feet. So I've gotten around that, and where I can, I still have some old DS64s, and they work great. So, I've already decided how I want to address my problem. I'm going to connect my cables up and check for continuity and shorts on each pin to both ends. I can do that. I have some breakouts that'll do it. I should have done it before I even mentioned it on the call to make sure it's not my wiring. But if it is my wiring, I don't know if it's a distance issue, which I don't see how, because it's just an output. It's putting a voltage out to light the signal. But with the DS74, it had some kind of input. I mean, sorry, the DS74, it had some kind of an input sensitivity when all I was supposed to be doing was closing a pin or a contact rather from 5 volts to one of the 4 inputs, and it worked as intended as long as it was less than a 7 or maybe 8 foot distance, and more than that, it didn't work with the gauge of wire. So I had to go to a heavier gauge. The only way I could do that with these signals, if that ends up being the problem, is I have to break it, take a short cable, maybe use a Digitrax, break it out to a big cable, run it, and then break it back down again. And I can do it, but it will not happen overnight.
Well,
But
that one, that's why I relayed a few things. Okay. So you're not getting false inputs. You're saying that basically after a certain distance of wire, the fascia button does not complete the circuit successfully as far as their circuit's concerned, correct?
yes, that's for the DS74, but that's not the machine equipment I'm working with. I just wanted to give you that example because you said you've heard some things didn't work as well, and I would say that's correct.
Yeah, because what I'm used to seeing is, and like NC had this problem with the switch eights and a few, that if the wire's over a certain distance, and this is also true on the SE8Cs and a few others, you need to put some type of snubber on the pin, or rather out at the push button, because it starts acting as an antenna, and you start getting mysterious throws. But not
True, that
throwing
did happen.
wasn't one of those problems.
Right, but I also got long enough to where not throwing became a. You're right. I've observed that, and I put a capacitor across them. But this is just an output, going from the SE74, and what am I trying to say? But I can't understand why it would light the lights in an incorrect fashion. But I'm going to stop. I think I maybe have taught myself in no circle. I think I need to do what I suggested, and that is pull an actual cable that's the right length out of the layout, connect it to 2 breakout boards, and see if I have good continuity between all the right pins. And if I do, then I think it has to be this wire gauge thing. I don't know how it could be, but I'll also ask them on their forum.
Yeah, I was going to say most of that IDC ribbon cable, it's all like 26 gauge and or 28. I can't
Yeah,
remember
this
off the
stuff's
top.
28 and it's very weak and it was bad for the inputs, but it's never, I mean, on my, like you say, on my other layout with the old Digitrax equipment, that's not ever been an issue. Now, it also works completely, uh, I'm sorry, that it also works completely differently. You have to use turnout commands with the SE8C. So even if I were to just go on eBay and find old SE8Cs, and I have a few laying around, it's also much harder, and it would use up a lot more turnout addresses that I would have to figure out what to do to actually throw the turnouts. Whereas the SE8C, I mean the SE74, it uses the new, I don't know what the DCC, kind of like what LCC would do. It uses the new aspect control. It sends a aspect number directly to the board, and there's one aspect, there's like up to 8 different numbers for 8 different aspects, whether that's red, yellow, green, flashing, you got the idea. So it doesn't eat up any turnout addresses.
Yeah, that's the the signal accessory IDs, and it's a whole nother pool of numbers. The nice thing is it gets things like the flashing aspect happening in the board.
Right. You don't have to send it on and off, on and off. Because Ken, you're absolutely right. I had this issue that you're probably going to go into, and that is when I tried to flash him, and even Rodney has mentioned it in some of the documentation for cats, but it's not a cat's issue. And that would be if you do a flashing red in JMRI or in cats and make it do it, it's going to send so much stuff that it can sometimes overload your local net if you're a Digitrax user. And that is an issue. And I love the, what did you call it again? I call it the DC. What's the right term for the kind of signaling I'm using?
That's the signal accessory command.
Okay, thank you. That is what I'm now using, and I love it because it eliminates address conflicts. It sends a lot less stuff, and functionally, it does work.
Well, and the other thing is it allows for the board to be smarter that rather than just turning it on and off, it can do a flash that like brightens and then dims, just
Yes,
like the real ones.
yes, sir. Well, I'm going to be quiet now. I know Rodney is on, and he may. Anybody there? It's a quiet group.
Yeah, I'm not hearing anything, Steve.
Yeah, nobody's saying. I was saying something, Rodney, but I was outlining primarily a Digitrax problem with the SE74s, and I just don't think you are a guy knowledgeable on that subject. If anybody else is, I'd love to hear from them. I'm also going, of course, to the Digitrax forum um, because I'm having a very perplexing problem. When I use the cables that come with the Digitrax stuff, but they're like little test cables, like 10 inches long or even maybe 18 inches long. They're not long. It works. And I use my own ribbon cable, standard 10 pin I think it's 0.1 spacing, but I'm not sure. 10-pin IDC ribbon cable. It mates into the same kind of connectors. And in fact, I put my own connector on one of the Digitrax cables so that I could put all 4 signals on the same cable, because Digitrax allows you to control 4 signals with one 10-wire cable. And yeah, so I guess what I'm getting at is my cables only partially work. They light 2 signals together. And you'd say, well, I just made a crimping mistake, but I got an entire layout that's hand crimped by me with the same IVC connectors and the same ribbon cable, and they all work. And I'm going to test the cables. The next thing I'm going to do when I get off this call, I don't want to use my time on the call in case somebody can help me with some other things to look into, is I'm going to take one of my homemade ribbon cables. I have some breakouts where you plug them in and they go to screw terminals. And I'm going to use an ohm meter to faithfully check each one. But I think it could be a wire gauge and distance problem, although that makes 0 sense because it's still lighting them. It's just lighting the wrong ones. Some kind of weird crosstalk or something is how I would maybe describe it.
Yeah, well, could you do the opposite? Take your brand new cable and put it somewhere else on the layout?
That's not a bad idea. I will try that, but I think it's happening in every single OS. But that's certainly worth trying. I'm trying to get this whole thing installed, and my understanding is that they're all having this same issue. And the way I noticed it was when I was experimenting with cats, and cats is working. That's not my issue. If I light a signal green, let's say, say clear it 2 blocks, so I actually get a green. Let's just say going into a main and then coming out of the main, I will see, or I can see the green, but if I can't individually control all 4 of them, like on the cat's board. 2 of them are ignored and 2 of them are shared. That's the only way I can say it. So the main and the siding, okay, the top signal that would normally be for the straight through route, or they call it the A1 signal in Digitrax parlance, and the B signal, which is the single-headed signal coming out of the main, both work together. If I set the A1 to green, then the other one's green. If I throw the turnout, then I get the yellow going into the siding, and I get a yellow coming out of the siding at the same time, even though I'm only wanting to clear it in one direction, and the other 2 addresses don't do anything. And I think it's endemic to the layout. I've walked around and tested it with a lot of, I can set this aspects manually without even using cats by going to Digitrax and sending or plugging into the LocoNet and sending the signal accessory commands directly. So I type 464 if that's one of my signal addresses, and then I send a 1 and it's green, red, and a 2 and it's yellow, and you know what I mean. So that's the issue. But yes, it could be a bad cable, but the problem is it seems to be everywhere.
Okay. Next thing you might try then is go to JMRI and think it's the signal mass table.
Yeah, it's actually on mine. It's the yes, but it's yes, I'm sorry, it is. And I will, that's a great question. I think that when I click cast, but I'll confirm I get the right aspects on that table, but not on this. But I could be wrong. That's a good one. I will experiment with that a little more, Rodney, and that'll be my next thing. Because yes, I've been doing that, but to be fair, I've been doing so many things. I've stored you know how it is. You get close to I'm doing a test operating session tomorrow. It's not a Saturday. It's not the session for the group that's coming in, and hopefully I'll have this all figured out by then. But thank you. That is a good idea. I've tried it, but I can't recall exactly what I saw. I'm gonna have to take another look at it.
Yeah, that's about all I can recommend because I've never played with one of those things to know what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, in fact, now I actually do have it's already on and running. So while I won't take up more time, but I'm going to open my tools tables. This one, signals.
Actually, what I suggest is use a separate instance of JMRI. So you've got like no cats, nothing, the minimalistic system,
Oh,
and go into the into the signal mask table, create new entry or two, and
I
try
see.
those. Now, with the way it's wired, I would say I'm not surprised that A1 and B follow each other because they're the same lines for the output as far as the color on the standard cable. But
Yes.
what's different is the enable. The A1 and the A2
The common is different, I
the
believe.
get one common, and the B and the C are supposed to be on the other common.
Yes, and that's controlled by how you plug the signal in. The signal mask adapter. There's a little thing that plugs in to a socket, and um, it has screw terminals for the individual colors. And according to the instructions, you're supposed to plug it the opposite way. So one picks up the B and C, the other one picks up the A1 or A2. But I found that reversing it doesn't seem to have any actual effect. But I will experiment with the JMRI direct control without cats running. That's a good idea. Haven't done that.
Yeah, my usual experience has been if I'm looking at an A1, A2, and I 180 it and back into the ribbon cable connector, it is now showing me B and C.
Aha. Yep.
If that isn't happening, something's squirreled up somewhere.
Right. Well, I'll continue to investigate that, and I appreciate that. That's a good thought. I'm going to go back on mute. I may step away to actually check the layout's not. I'm in the layout area, but it's a large building. It's kind of like the Trandic or John Parker's. So I have to get up from the chair and walk over and physically look at the signal. But I'll do it soon. But I'll let everybody take a break from hearing me and see if somebody else wants to say anything. I'm going to really go quick run.
Hey, Steve, before you walk away, let me ask another question then. When
Yeah,
you say it works okay with the local net cable or the Digitrax supplied cable,
that is correct.
okay? And and how did you test that? Did you actually
Okay. So the way I tested, I haven't gone as far as to test it with a dispatcher panel. I used a throttle plugged directly into LocoNet, addressed the signal by number because they're individually addressable as like by head number. So 463, 464, 465. So 463 is the South Dalby top light, and 464 is the South Dalby bottom light, and 465. So as I hit those to different colors, they do change to those colors when they're plugged right into the board. But when they are not plugged into the board, and I use the same tool with the throttle to change them, they light up in that strange manner that I described.
okay. That kind of points towards the cable then, because the only
Yeah, I
thing
think it
it's
just about
yeah.
has to be, Rodney. All right. I may get on Zoom and on my cell phone so I can walk around. I didn't bring my earbuds. I should have thought of that. But anyway, I'm going to step away for a minute, but I will be right back.
Yeah, make sure to come back because I enjoy listening to you, Steve.
You are way too kind.
Yeah, you always got interesting things you're talking about. I was glad to see you on the call. I enjoy having you here.
So how's everybody else doing?
I'm I'm doing I'm doing okay here, Rodney. And we're just Rob and I were talking earlier during the day. I mean, we always ask you, how's it going with the updates on the cats with the new version of this? Still a few months off, right?
Okay, the updates is I spent some time and I got it working with the the same logging that GMRI is using. So that's good. That was a hurdle I wanted to make sure we closed on that. And I've been working feverishly on the getting the turnout stuff to work right, and that's coming along. And then just a little while ago, I found out that something broke, and I'm trying to figure out what broke because it's in a chunk of the code that I didn't touch. So there had to be something common somewhere, and I haven't figured out where it is yet. But yeah, it's coming along. So far, it's looking good. But I still have quite a bit. I got to do a lot of testing, is what it amounts to. And
Okay.
then I've got to do the the documentation and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a while yet, but it's progressing. And kind of like my goal is I'd really like to get it done in April so we can test it on some of the layouts around here before Rocky Hop comes on the first part of May. And so
Oh,
someone would like to use it for Rocky Hop.
Okay, well that answers my question because we're looking at ours possibly being in where we could have cats fully functional, probably maybe in early summer. So it would beat that schedule. That's good because we need the fix for the exit signals that we've talked about there, so that you don't have to re-clear the signal and knock it down so you can go the other way, and the signal going across the diamond. That's what we were concerned about.
Yeah, I did a quick check and made sure that the diamond fix is in, and it is, and I couldn't. I'd have to look and see what the next one is. The first one you talked about. I think it's in there, but I'm not sure. Again, I'll have to do a specific test to make sure that it got fixed.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, because you remember what you know what we're talking about, right? We had exit signals from all the interlockings that's in order so we can get a restricting. So and it works real good, but then we had to actually knock re-clear the signal and knock it down so we could run traffic in the opposite direction. You
Mhm.
recall what I was talking about there?
I don't remember the details, but I'm going to look at the notes again and see.
Okay, all right, cool.
I've got a an unrelated, other than it's a signal thing, something I've learned from doing Fremo and the issue of, okay, you need to test signals, but you can't always see them from where you are. We made a couple little stands using that white plastic board material. It's basically it's like corrugated cardboard, but it's plastic. And it stands by itself, and you put it on the other side of the signal
Hmm.
so that when it lights up, you can see which color is lighting up, even though you can be halfway or further across the room. You can see what the other side is showing.
So it's basically reflects off the little cardboard thing.
Yeah, and it's just white plastic, so it reflects pretty good.
Yeah.
Hmm. That's a cool idea. And Ken, as long as we're on that subject, does anybody on the call here run into problems with signals? Well, I'm going to call it viewability, meaning that the signal head is more focused straight on, like it would be looking at the track. And if you're on the side of the signal, it's hard to see, and you have to get your head in the track. Is anybody come up with anything, any ideas of how to make that signal more viewable from the side or anything like that, or no? Anybody?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, Rodney? What do
Yeah,
you?
we're running into it on the Craddock because we've got one where it's an inside curve, and
Okay,
yeah, that is a problem. Um, Typically, what a lot of people will do is they'll put a repeater on the fascia. In other words, some LEDs that are tied in basically with parallel, and so when the signal lights up, then it'll light up the fascia as well.
okay, all right. Well, that's I've seen that fixed before. I was just wondering because I think I'm going to experiment here because we got a friend of ours that makes the signals and he uses heads that he buys, and if it's some cases you can't view it straight on, it's difficult to do. And there's a certain type of fiber optic that's it glows out the side as you illuminate it. And I'm going to test an experiment here. You got different diameters, 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters, 2.5, very small. And I'm going to do an experiment where I just cut a tiny piece of it, with a razor saw or whatever, and stick it in the lens, like just temporary, just to, not permanent glue it with super glue or anything, just stick it in there and see if it reflects sideways, because we have some signals on the layout that you can read right from the side. We almost got I would almost say a 200-degree viewing advantage, and some of them are much, much different than that. So I'm going to experiment with that, see if we could get that so I can be viewed from the side as easy, because I got some areas that are just pointing just completely the wrong way.
Where do you mount your LEDs? Do you mount them below and then run fiber optics up, or do you mount them in the head themselves?
In the head, it's a tri LED that in the head.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's good. That's good, because sometimes if you got the bi LEDs where you have to mix the colors, that can get kind of tough too. And your what you see is going to depend upon what angle you're viewing the LED from.
No, I've heard of that problem before. None of ours are like that. No, they're all 4 leads, a common and red, yellow, green, going to every LED, and that we have no problem with that, the color distinction, no matter which. Once you can view it, it's only if this lens, the LED, is set back in the head of the signal a little bit, it becomes more viewable like the prototype. But that's something where you don't want the prototype.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen issues with like the Darth Vader signal, as they call it, and a lot of layouts that had that because, oh yeah, that's what the prototype had, and how fast some of those get trimmed a lot shorter than they originally came in. The other trick, though, that I've seen is some of the CAs are that, I'm trying to remember which type. Basically, you make a glob that sits up in front and basically forms a lens. So the light's coming out of the LED and it's actually hitting the inside of this hemisphere of the plastic, and that gives you a help in the viewing angle because it actually brings it out from the body of the signal.
Oh, that's a good idea. I mean, and you might be able to actually have a clear thing like DAP 230 that's clear, and put a piece of it on there and have the same effect. And if it didn't work, you could dig it out with a could just dig it out of there with some tool, like a dentist tool, and it wouldn't like be permanent. But that's a great idea.
Yeah, like you say, practice on something disposable.
Right. That's a great idea, Ken. It's all on the same idea, on the same principle. But that's a great idea. That's good to know. But well, Rodney, I'm glad you got it. I'm glad you're on your way there. You got your Rocky Mountain ops. You're trying to get that in for. So that's way before we need it then. You didn't say anything, did you, Rodney? We lost. If you did, I lost my audio.
Nope, didn't say anything.
Okay, just checking. Okay.
I'm back, by the way. Steve Davis here. And the results of my experiment are commands that I send using JMRI to that same SE8C are showing the correct lights for the correct addresses. There is no issue there. So it has to be the cable thing. And so that will be, don't know what or how to fix the cable. I will post it, but I'm also going to try my own solutions. And just wanted you to know that at least, I had worked so hard to get all these addresses into CATs and everything, and they are correct, and they are correct in JMRI and Panel Pro, and The good news is the ones that I think are lighting, they're lighting the ones they're supposed to be lighting, if that makes any sense.
Uh, though, of course, if I remember correctly, the SEHC, you have to address at the signal head
Yeah,
level
I'm sorry if did
as
I say
as
SEHC? I meant SE74. My bad.
yeah. So unfortunately, switching from the one board to the other, you're changing the whole style of how you talk to it.
Yes, you're correct.
So
I
what
can't
works
change. Yeah.
on the so what should work on the one ribbon coming off of the one board, that same signal should work off of the other one equally well.
Yes, and let me reiterate what I said because maybe I used some bad language. I was so excited that I figured out this problem. Well, I haven't fixed it, but I figured it out. Using the new SE74, the very one I'm having trouble with, like I said, if I plug Digitrack's sample signal into it, and even with my own crimped on second signal with the mask reversed, I am able to get 4 different signals individually controlled. And I was doing that using a throttle, but I just ran back and forth with JMRI and I was able to light the different heads on that signal with in accordance with just by JMRI manually, and they lit up correctly. So I seem to at least have the addresses correct.
Yeah, it sure sounds like the difference is the cable somehow.
Yeah, well, I'll continue to track that.
Steve,
How long?
if I remember right, the 10-pin ribbon cable is the same between the SCHC and the SE74s and stuff.
That
So
is correct.
so it's possible, like I say, if you've got one on currently works on your layout, and you can pull it out and try it, or because it works,
Yeah, I will
and
definitely do
yeah.
that. But then that would mean that every single one of the 20 or so of these cables I ran on the new layout were all wrong somehow. But you're right. That is a test that I need to make, and that's to pull out an existing working cable and plug it in. I do intend to do that.
Okay, so you say you got 20. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a lot.
I've wired up the entire layout for signals, and they work correctly on the board. And when I hit them on cats, it turns on the correct signals according to JMRI. But the hardware in the field is not reflecting it unless I have like a 1 foot long cable. That's the best I can describe the issue.
How long are the cables you're talking about, Steve?
Okay,
Roughly?
the cables that come with Digitracks are literally just test cables. They're like 18 inches long. The cables that I am running from my SE8C control board to the individual signals are on the order of 10 to 20 feet each, which is what I used on the other layout. It was not a problem.
Hmm. And you say if you got a short run, it works, huh?
I don't know that exactly. I know that if I hook the test signal up with the Digitrax test cable, it works. I'll keep working on it. I understand what you guys are saying. I got more testing to do is the thing. You've given me some ideas to try. Like, yes, well, I will make a short version of my actual cable. That's a good one because it isn't just plugging the mast right into the socket. It uses what Digitrax calls a TSMK, terminal strip mounting kit, a very stupid name. And basically, you plug that into this cable you've made or into a Digitrax cable, and then the signals connect to that via the individual wires that come through the layout opening, to the signal. Because these Digitrax test signal masks are not pretty. They're only for testing. They're a little sticky stick thing that has 3 LEDs on it, basically.
Okay.
Let me just confirm something.
Yes,
So you're using the signal head and DCC signal decoder setting for the new board.
that is
And
correct.
and so that's giving you the 1 out of 8 or 9 different appearance numbers, as
Yes,
opposed to that board doesn't do mass, it just does heads, correct?
that is how it's set up right now. So it's not quite as slick as LCC. It works by heads. So basically for example, on one mast, I have a top and a bottom signal. And the top signal address is 463 and the bottom one is 464. There's no way in the Digitrax hardware to address these. What am I trying to say? A different way, like by the whole head, by the whole mast. I mean, it's one per head. So for one plant, if you want to call it that, which would be two single heads, if you're looking about a typical passing siding, so you've got a double head going into the siding, you've got two single heads, one each looking out of the siding. You can control all four of those, and I can go into JMRI and press the right buttons and get the right colors on the test mast. But whether I use the test mast or the Digitrax throttle, I can't make it happen on the ones out in the field. So that's where I'm at. On the layout, when I say out on the field, sorry. I know it's a conundrum. If it was easy, I'd have already figured it out.
It was good that he stopped in. I haven't that was cool.
Yeah, I'm glad he did whatever he did. He was a good guy.
Oh yeah, I mean he puts a lot of work in, I'll tell you that.
He sure does. No, I'm a fan.
Yeah, Roger.
Hey, Steve, I was wondering, did follow up, did you ask about how to set up a separate traffic manager desk?
Yes,
Did you get that working?
I think so. I have to say, I haven't gotten to where I can really test it in an operating environment, but I want to make sure there's a couple things that you said that I'm not sure I understood. So I'm glad you brought that up. So you right now I'm running JMRI with cats on the same computer, and I'm sitting at that computer right now, and it's the one I've been testing all the signals with. What I am going to do is continue to control the layout with that, but I'm guessing, and I'm not guessing, you made it pretty clear. I would turn off the simple JMRI server on that computer, and I would tell cats to look to the other machine for ops information. Is that correct?
Yep.
And on the other machine, on this machine, the only thing that confused me is to make sure ops is not running on your cat's computer. I don't know how to make it not run. You start Panel Pro and I can open Windows and see the cars and stuff that are in the system. Maybe I misunderstood that direction.
Um, yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. You know, how can you make it not run? Um, Basically, if you don't do anything with it, it's just sits there idle. You know,
And
just
here's how I'm using. Okay, I think it's gonna work. I have to say I haven't done the fire test yet. I will get back to you, but to me, I was planning on having tested that. I do have it set up. I have another machine in traffic manager room now, new thing, and I have it set up with the same version of JMRI connected to the same, but it's not physically connected to the layout. I got it all as a local net simulator, so it doesn't interfere. I know you could, but I don't want to cause even more congestion and problem and headaches. So it's just going to be a dummy, but it's going to connect to the printers and it's going to connect to TrainStat, and TrainStat already works great. And I will be sitting in that other room printing switch lists and handing out jobs and stuff. So I think it'll work. I don't see any reason it wouldn't.
yeah, that's basically what we do on the Krandik is we've got
Yeah.
a laptop that runs JMRI, no connection to the layout whatsoever. And all it does is the guy who sits at that computer just prints switch lists and such.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. So you don't even worry about running the local net over to it. But yeah, you're right. You got to tell you got to tell it some type of a connection. It doesn't matter what, but you have to
Right.
have.
I'm not running the local net. It just there's a
Yeah.
dummy that you can use, and the one I use just because I'm a local net guy is called local net simulator. I don't use it for any actual purpose.
Yep.
So it sounds like I got it right. And it really, I guess it doesn't matter. I decided to turn off the simple JMRI server on the CATS machine. But in all honesty, I guess as long as I tell CATS to look at the server that's in the other room, that's where it's going to get its ops information, right?
Right. So it doesn't matter if you turn it off on the cat's computer or not.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see CATS IP address and host name and this and that and the other, and it's yeah, it works. So I haven't actually moved cars in it and shown that they do reflect through, but I expect that it will. I can't imagine it's too much rocket science to do that. You gave a great explanation. I will write you an email, when, or maybe I'll even reply on the group when this is working, so that you had the satisfaction of knowing it did. And also, if I continue to have questions, I won't have another call for another month, but I'll certainly post or send you emails or however you want me to handle that.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, since you got working on the cat's computer, all you got to do is change that IP address in
Yeah,
cats, and it should switch you right over.
well, that's beautiful. The next thing I will, though, I want to make sure Ken and whoever else was helping me, I think maybe Rodney was, Rodney Kantorski, that's if I said it right, is I am going to make my own cables that are shorter, the length of the Digitrax ones, and plug the real signals in the same way. The actual Atlas is what they now are. It used to be BLMA, but I'm going to plug the real signals in to see if there's anything at all with the socketing system I'm using, which comes from Digitrax. But still, if I've somehow misinterpreted or done it wrong, I did find a post on the ops on the group.io for this topic, and they were very good and descriptive and had illustrations of how to plug it in and wire it. And so, as far as I can tell, I am following those, but the proof is in the pudding. I'll make that test.
Because the plugger connection system, it's a 10 ribbon cable you're talking about?
Yes, it's a 10 ribbon cable, but they have sort of a clever mode of duplexing. Ken is familiar, he was mentioning it. And the way it works is you've only got so many. Actually, because I'm using the Atlases, there's actually 3 wires for each head, not including the common. So you've got red, yellow, green, and common. So 4 for one head, and red, yellow, green, and common for the other. And what changes it is when you flip the mast, it puts the commons on different ones. So it basically deprives the mast you're not wanting to address of any positive voltage. And then the other mast, it's kind of hard to describe, but it works, believe it or not. And it does work on a short cable with a test mast, but it's sort of magical because you're right. If you were to just run individual wires, you'd need 4, 8, 12, 16, and you're doing it with 10.
Okay, I just
Okay.
looked at the manuals for both the SE8C and the
Oh
78,
man, Kevin,
and they are using the exact same graphic for the two of them.
right.
Now, for everybody following along, they break it down into 2 sets of 3 that are the primary LEDs, and then at pins 1 and pins 10, are the two different commons. Well, if you rotate and plug it back in, if what was wired to pin 1 is now wired to pin 10, if you get the drift.
Yeah.
And the colors also do a little flip-flop there, but it's documented. So yeah, a proper signal will show the two heads this way and the two heads that way by just 180ing it. And I know when
Right.
we're installing, it was frequently plug it in, try something. Oh, that's the wrong side. Turn it, put it back
I've
in.
done that, and I have done that. But to your point, I have it working with the test cables and the test heads, and not with my own one. So that's where I'm going to go with it. But yes, that's exactly right. So the guy who was asking, you gave a better answer than I did. So basically, it has a different common for each mast, I guess. So it can tell, no, a different one for each head, I think. So it can tell which one to turn on, pin 1 or pin 10, depending on whether the wires flip or not. Yeah, it's per mast thing. Yeah.
Well, basically, it's time multiplexing. So the pins to the LED, the one set of heads turns on by the one common, and then the other wired to the same color pins, shall we say, instead that terminate at the other common turn on. And it's just constantly going back and forth, flipping which of the two commons are turned on so
That's
that
correct.
we get all the heads at once.
Yes, sir. With you so far, and it works. It works on my other layout with the SE8C flawlessly with long cables and everything. And on the new layout with the 74s, it works, but only with a short cable with only the test mast. But I don't know if it's something about my wiring, because the test mast plugs right into the socket, whereas the actual Atlas signals have each individual little wire connected to this board, which itself then plugs into the socket on the ribbon cable. But that's what I do on the other layout, and it works. So we'll make it work. Wish I didn't have to fight with it, but it's always something. You'll never learn. If everything worked the first time, how would we learn, right?
It'd still be a lot easier if it worked the first time.
I would love it if it did. Not gonna lie to you.
But I know if in LCC, if the connectors are not crimped on right onto a ribbon cable, if you just don't do it right, that can cause chaos where it doesn't, you don't know where it's at.
And that is a possibility. And I have had some problems based on that crimping. But I will say that, thank God, the breakout boards have their own resistors in them, and the signals, of course, being LEDs, can't be reverse biased. So they just, when you mess it up, it just makes the colors weird.
Okay.
Here's another hint I'd give.
Okay.
If you've got a cable and you 180 the cable, from where it was,
yeah, right.
If the symptoms stay the same, that leans away from it being the cable. If you 180 the cable and the symptoms change a bit, that's more indicative of when there's a strange cross or open or something in the cable.
Because reversing the mast in the final, I don't know how to write this, on the layout doesn't change anything. But it does if I'm plugging the little test masts directly into the Digitrax test cable. So you hit on something.
Yes,
right.
In the grasping for clues, it's one more thing to try. Take your 20-foot cable, drag it out, put the far end into the board and the one that was at the board out at the far end, and see what happens.
Good idea. I'll do it all. I've already got one dried out because I was going to test it a different way, but I like your idea better. I was going to do it a more, what I consider, scientific way, but it's going to also be slower and it won't give me immediate joy or And that would be, I was just going to run them out to breakouts and check with the ohm meter that cable one really goes to cable one and two to two and three to three. And then if I reverse the mass, that doesn't change. But anyway, yes, I will do what you said. That's a good idea, Ken. Thank you.
Steve, are you saying that the problem you're seeing is that the C mast and the A1 mast are the same and the A0 mast and the B mast are the same?
That would be correct.
That
But
implies,
only on my cables that have the
yeah,
Digitrax adapter terminal strip thingy.
yeah, yeah, gotcha. But okay, so then the selection mechanism is the pins 1 and 10, right? Because those are the
That's correct.
enablers.
Yes, sir, Rodney.
So A1 and C look at the same color wires,
Right,
and A0 and B look at the same color wires.
right.
So the thing that makes them different are like you say, the multiplexing, the 1 and the 10. I would focus on if the 1 and the 10 aren't tied together somehow.
Well, that's valid. And maybe in the crimp, because they're both on the end, it's crimping across them. That's just weird because I haven't had this issue before. But
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
that's a possibility. I will look into that.
Well, I'm going to drop out. I got some work to do, but boy, it's good conversation here. I enjoyed it here. So
Well,
say
I,
thanks.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate all the help. And I'm going to also sign off because I need to test some of these things. And my wife's got dinner ready for me. It's an hour later here than it is Mountain Time, and so I'm going to drop off too. But I'm so grateful for this group that's so helpful and generous with their time. And Ken, I see you a lot, of course, on the JMRI group too. So you're just a person performing an incredible service to our hobby, as are you, Rodney Black, for having written this software in the first place. All right, yeah. Oh, Rodney, quick question, Black. I walked away and I shouldn't have when you were talking about progress on some update. But before I worry about that, I don't want you to repeat all of it. What is the issue that you are trying to correct in the newer update?
Yeah. Well, I've got a whole bunch of stuff, some little things that have come up over time. Um, like the guys from back east came up with a couple problems with how the signaling works, and um, that's got to be fixed. And Daryl Cruz came up with the UP does something um, using different and advanced aspects, and
I
basically
see.
it does a 2 block look ahead rather than or
Got
three
it.
or something.
Okay. Well, I'm not probably using most of those, so I'm gonna not
Well,
worry, but I'll put the new one on when it's ready.
yeah, well, in addition, the other thing that I'm working with that I got hung up on is I want to change the way logging is done because I use an old library.
That's
Um,
a good idea because I sometimes have trouble with installations of cats having to copy that library and do all that kind of stuff.
right now, in the future, one of the JMRI guys is going to include a uh, Java must have a library that's an adapter. So you use the old commands, but it translates them into the new one, and that's going to be in the Jam. In fact, I think it's in the latest JAMRI releases.
Oh, that's
So,
very cool.
so consequently, you won't need to do the copy, but they don't really want to, maintain that very long, and I agree. So
Yeah,
I
I
got to
see.
get that out, and
Right.
that's a biggie. And the other one is that some of the switch controls didn't work right. In particular, a few layouts, um, they want if if the ground crew, the guys on the ground throw a turnout and they haven't been
This
given
meeting is being
authorization,
recorded.
and they haven't been given authorization, then they wanted cats to reverse it, which is kind of a dangerous type of thing. But I've got something there that I think I got fixed for them there.
Understood. All right. Thank you. I'm going to drop off.
Okay.
So, Rodney,
Yeah.
yeah, I just installed cats for the first time on uh, my test section here. And I do have the latest test release of JMRI, and I don't know enough about cats yet. If there's an error, does it show up on the console log?
It's going to depend upon how nasty the error is. In
Okay,
this, if the sense like if it's something really bad, you get a pop-up in the middle of the screen, and it'll just say, Java's going to die on you. If other kinds of errors, yeah, look in the JMRI system console, and it'll show up in there.
okay. Well, I'm not seeing any errors, and I didn't copy your recording or that oh the logging file. I'm using the one that the latest release JMRI provided me. I sent you a screenshot.
Yeah, yeah, and it all looked good. It looked
Yeah,
good.
and I don't seem to be getting any errors. But
Yeah,
so the next step is I'm working on implementing um, the LCC layout file into CATS and here again testing as I go on stuff. But I haven't seen any errors, and it hasn't locked up on me.
no, the screenshots you showed indicated that it'll let you know for sure if that library was needed. So it's no longer needed. I looked at I forget what I looked at. But anyway, it was I think you sent me a clip of the log libraries that are shipped now in the test release, and there is one in there that's something about log4j transfer to SLFC or something in there, and I think that's the adapter library that makes
Yeah,
the
yeah,
old commands work.
that's where the latest test release of JMRI put those files in under the Windows x86 subdirectory JMRI, and it all seemed to work. I was just wondering when it does act up what I should look for, and it looks like at the console log, and then if it just hangs up or I get a nasty message, but so far it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, that's good to know. Because that's a rough verification that so far CAT should still be compatible with the directions that GMRI is going in there, be their 5.16 release or whatever it is when they come out in June.
Yeah, I think this one's 15.4 is the latest test release. And the reason I downloaded it, I wanted to see what happened with that logging um, Java file, and it seems to work. So that's the main thing.
Yeah, you would have known if it didn't work.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, and then I was also wondering if it doesn't work, where should I look, and if it's the JMRI console text, no problem with that.
Yep. Yeah, that everything goes through there because they all use the same logging file. So it all
Nope.
goes. And for what it's worth, if you sometimes if you can't catch it, you can look in. They log it also to disk, and so not only does it show up in the system console window, but it goes to disk, and there's a messages file and a session.log file. And if you look at those, and I think it is the message file is rolls around for previous
Yeah.
um, previous runs.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's on the Windows program files x86.
No. Actually, it's in. I think the most recent is okay on Windows. The most recent is you got to go into the root of your user. So where your document sits at the same level, but it's not in the documents. You'll see something called JAMRI, and if you go into that folder, you'll see something about logs or something, if I remember right.
Okay, because I put my JMRI user files out on Dropbox because I have 4 different computers I access the same files from. Um, so yeah, I'll look on the hard drive of the computer.
Okay, well, yeah, if you've got it on in the cloud somewhere, it's in the same folder that your
The,
profiles are in.
okay, well, I have the user files
Yes.
out on the cloud.
So that's probably where the logs are kept to.
Okay, I'll go digging around in that and see. Um, that's all I got.
Okay.
Okay, guys, I'm going to drop out. It was great hearing from you. So thanks for all the.
Hmm. Sure. We'll see you next month, I hope.
Oh, yeah, I hope so too. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I got here a little late. I had a doctor's appointment with the wife. So,
That's important.
um, how well did everybody do on for Steve Davis? For it sounds like Steve Black's trying to do the same thing. Multiple computers running cats or panels.
Um, no, Steve Black is trying to get LCC to work. Steve
Oh,
Davis is using Digitrax for his hardware.
okay.
Yeah,
But he's
yeah.
using 2 computers. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, actually, I have 4 computers. I have a laptop that I can carry into the layout room, and then in the layout room, I have a Windows mini computer, and then I have another computer upstairs so I can program stuff from upstairs and play with it. And then I have one down here on my workbench. So, and then I have smart power plugs that turn all the layout power on and off. So I can be upstairs in another room and turn power onto the layout from upstairs and then do the testing I need to do. It's probably overkill that these mini computers have gotten so cheap. Well, they were cheap before memory prices started going up. That I replaced my desktops with the minis.
Right now, I'm using JMRI on a Windows laptop tablet mixture from Walmart. And I do all my JMI stuff on it, and then I copy it to a USB drive, walk it into or plug it into another unit, which happens to have a Raspberry Pi running JMRI. And I can then do everything JMRI on the Raspberry Pi and DCCEX from the Raspberry Pi, and I enjoy that. Trying to get away from the Windows environment. Uh,
Yeah, I had Raspberry Pi on the layout, and
hmm
because I couldn't at that time, Dropbox wasn't available on the
Right.
Raspberry Pi, or Microsoft OneDrive wasn't. So that's why we replaced the Raspberry Pi with a mini PC.
Right.
And,
No, no. Yeah,
and it's headless like the Raspberry Pi was. I
sure.
just remote into it. Now I can remote into it with an iPad too,
Hmm.
and control. It's a little bit more awkward, but so that's what I've got set up right now.
Right. No, I was just saying that I was trying to get away from the Windows environment
Yeah,
because of enough Microsoft crud going on that, they were having problems with 11 update and things like that. I'm going,
yeah. The updates have really gotten bad.
mhm.
The company, I no longer own any stock in Microsoft. I've gotten pretty disappointed with the way they're treating the people, and some of the things going on. I do hope they get it figured out. I
Yeah.
had a Windows 10 computer that because of the CPU in it, I couldn't update it to Windows 11, which is another reason I bought another mini PC to replace the
Right.
Windows 10. Um, and then lately, I got a Ugreen NAS, and
Okay.
my intentions for that, and I got the cheapest one Ugreen makes. My intentions are to drop Dropbox, get rid of it,
Okay.
because it's about $100 a year, and um, so I started with the Ugreen NAS about 3 months ago, and it's got, it's like anything else. You got to get used to it. And then I've got external hard drive plugged into it to do daily backups.
Right.
And,
Good.
and it's a RAID 1 level.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. And I put SSDs into it, and now I kind of wish I'd put HDD, the hard drives, into it. But
Mm.
at the time I bought it, I thought I was going to have it down here on my workbench, and I didn't want it to be noisy, so I put the SDDs in it. And I haven't tried to put Docker on it. The lowest level one they sell doesn't come with Docker, but if you go up the next step, then you can get Docker container in there. Then you can add a whole bunch of other stuff. So at this point, it's I work on as I can, make sure things get backed up with the goal of getting rid of Dropbox, because I don't see Dropbox being in years to come going to stay around, because they just aren't doing anything new to speak of, and I don't want to get hooked up with Microsoft OneDrive. So
Gotta love,
what's that?
gotta love Windows.
Yeah.
It just dropped Zoom off,
Yeah.
pulled it back up. So yeah, no, I've been doing NAS for years, and but I haven't. It's just myself and my wife and the computer for the train stuff, and I haven't decided to do that. That's why I said I do USB right now. That
Sure.
if I update anything on JMRI on the Windows, I just throw it on the USB and then walk it into the JMRI on the Raspberry, and it loves it. I copied into the directories, it loves it and duplicates, and I can then BCCEX stuff in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here again, the only reason I dropped the Raspberry Pi was
Yeah,
uh, no way to get to files easily. Um,
right.
so, and they may have changed that. They may have
It
got,
should have, yeah, it should have been changed for NAS purposes, meaning that if you are going onto an NAS, that should.
Be able to find it on the
Yep.
local. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now my NAS, I don't allow outside of
Mhm.
my, I first had it turned on and I didn't. I looked at it and turned it off. As far as uh, I have no goal or want to be outside the house and remote in. That's kind of silly. Yeah. Um,
I
that,
I've
that,
only had to do remote in, and but that's only to a specific computer,
uh,
and I was doing testing of power supplies overnight, and no, it I I didn't find the need of accessing any of my data files.
no. The thing about having the NAS uh, versus in the cloud somewhere is if I was to suffer a fire or
Yes,
tornado, we had a dry show
well,
a while back, and
yeah. Mm,
uh, back at my office when I was working, I used to take magnetic tapes home at night and,
hmm
get them away from the office so that this is before clouds became
Yeah,
popular. So I'm used to the idea of having a backup away from the physical building that
yep.
everything is in. And I haven't totally resolved how I'm going to do that at this point, but I'll figure out a way.
Yeah, we were doing backups and we would take a hard drive unit, USB, plug it in, whatever, back it up to it, and then offsite it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do that once a week or once a month.
These were mag tapes. They were
Yep.
labeled Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So always had them off site,
Yeah.
the week supply of them. But,
Another work, we were doing the thumb drives for Monday, Tuesday through Sunday,
yeah.
Monday through Sundays. Yeah.
Back at the turn of the century, I was paying $20,000 a month to AT&T for the 56 kilobyte
Yep.
dedicated lines, which was
Hmm.
just ridiculous
Oh, yeah.
nowadays. Think about it, because we had dedicated frame relay lines between here and Minneapolis and Kansas City and Chicago, and they were only 56K. The old telco
Right.
401 stuff.
So, Rodney, what do you think about NAS for multiple computers accessing CATs then with JAMR?
Okay. Whatever works for you.
Well, somebody would have to still be a server, I would assume, from what I was reading.
What are you specifically are you thinking about?
Well, taking into a large layout, um, I get from what I was reading of what was going on is that if you are running operations on one and train um, traffic on another,
Yeah, it works.
is it
That
NAS based or is it server remote
it,
based?
it's more server where the computer running cats maintains the um, state of the layout, so to speak, where the trains are and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And then the train stat programs talk to the cat's computer and it tells them where the trains are and who's assigned to them and stuff like that. And then operations can run on any of the computers and cats talks to it and
Hmm.
gets the length and weight and number of cars in a train and stuff like that. And that goes back to cats and it distributes it to train stats. So, yeah, there are people. One time on Pat's layout, we had a laptop that was running operations and single guy at that. We had the dispatcher computer, and then we had little laptops at the 2 yards, and they were running TrainStat. So the CATS was basically the hub, the server of it all, and
Oh,
the
okay.
yards could watch, and through TrainStat they could see where the trains are and how long they were and when they were coming towards their yards and things like that. And it all works.
Is where's the documentation hiding?
On CATS.
Yeah.
It's in the distributions.
Okay.
If you look at the distribution, there's a CATS manual and there's a designer manual, and it's in there. And then TrainStat's its own distribution. It has a manual in it too.
Okay. Because I did look at that and I said, oh, wait a second, is okay, I see the CATS manual is designer from JMRI.
No,
Yeah,
designer is for
right.
designing CATS panels.
Okay. All right. Be-
And
I was
unfortunately,
confused.
the information there is it's
Hmm.
sometimes it's in both of them, sometimes it's in more in one than the other, and you
Hmm.
often have to look in both to get the whole picture of what's going on.
All right. Another level, another step. I'm more than eager to get to when I can.
Hmm. And then there's some videos around too off of YouTube, and I think
Okay.
they're linked to from at least from the CATS website,
All right.
and there may be linked from the Groups IO site too. I don't remember. I think I looked once and it had some of them, but not all of them. So it's out there. Usually not enough, but it's out there. Well, the problem is if you get too much information, it gets very hard to find a specific. If you got a specific question, it's sometimes really hard to find it if you have too much information.
Yeah.
I suppose the thing to do is run the manuals through an AI or something and generate an index.
Yeah. 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 If you had an index. Yeah, like I hate AI, but anyway, an intuitive index.
Yeah,
I like AI and I don't like AI. How about that one?
yeah,
As long as there's a bunch of walls up around it that doesn't go jumping over and saying, I'll be back. Other than that, I enjoyed reading up on what was going on with Mr. Davis and what you had to say on that. So I hope that all worked out for him.
yeah. He's kind of on the cutting edge of stuff, so at least that's been my impression. So it's always tough being on the cutting edge.
Yeah, it is. Been there, done that.
Yeah.
What was worse is there was no manual way back in Radio Shack days on Xenix that said,
Hmm.
here's how you talk to two computers and send a packet. In
Hmm.
in 8 hours, I figured it out. It wasn't the easiest thing to figure out, but it took me 8 hours. Oh well. So we stopped sending 8-inch discs through the mail and getting them erased. So yeah, cutting edge for way back then. All right, now I'm probably gonna say to you guys next month. I got
Mm-hmm.
I got the answers. More research when I get a minute. Still doing DCC conversions and things for club members, and
Mm-hmm.
never ending. But I do thank you. I do understand enough to be dangerous, and when I get there, I'll see what happens.
Okay, yeah, and if you want, I'll send you a link to the videos I've done on various topics.
Yeah, that would be great.
So,
I'll send you a keynote for it.
okay.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Take care, gentlemen.
Yep, you
Steve,
too.
Ken, and Rodney, take care.
Yep, sounds like a good time to end. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So, I'm gonna leave too. Good evening, guys.
Bye.
Till next time.
Oh, one last question
Sure.
before you take off. So, in one of the groups I owe today, um, they'd mentioned if you put it like a crossover section of track, and the track gang has to put one of the switches out of service and leave the other one in. Does CAT support that?
Yeah,
Okay, that's all
it'll
I'd
it'll
read and had never thought about it.
yeah, it'll do. In fact, that was the original design. Um, so on a crossover, one turnout had one address, and the other turnout had the other address, and the dispatcher had to throw them individually to complete the crossover move. And people said, "Oh, that's not how the prototype works." So then I set it up such that if you give the two the same address, then they will throw in tandem.
Okay, well, um, yeah, my turnouts, each one is separate,
Hmm.
so I shouldn't have any problem with
No,
that.
but it
Yeah,
but it does mean that you'll have to throw them individually. They won't throw concurrently.
yeah, which is shouldn't be a problem under CAT, should it?
Mhm. No. Oh
No.
no, no.
Yeah, because I have I have an event ID that says okay, uh, at this crossover, throw them together, and both of them will start moving.
Hmm.
Or I can individually um, uh, veto one out of the other. Anyway, it was just a question. It goes back to the old days when uh, you used to watch Santa Fe, and the turnouts wouldn't move at the same time. They weren't synchronized. One would move, then the other one would move
Hmm.
after it got completed. So anyway, let you go get something to eat. I'm going to go upstairs and get something myself.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Nice talking with you again.
Yep, same here.
Bye.
Bye.